Hey, last minute announcement before this thing starts. The Metal Meltdown will be doing a live stream January 6th here on this channel. Duh. We're going to start up around, I don't know, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time-ish. I don't really know. I don't really have things planned out just yet, but we're just going to do a live stream because I got nothing better to do that fucking day. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll play some Banjo-Kazooie or whatever. Maybe we'll play insert game here. I don't fucking know. We're just gonna hang out, drink, shoot the shit, and do all kinds of silly nonsense, alright? See you there, January 6th, Coolio.
Happy New Year, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown, our very first recorded and released in 2023. Today, we are going to talk about some of our most highly anticipated metal albums of 2023, more specifically a slew of albums that I personally am super hyped up for to hear, to listen, to jam, to talk about here on the Metal Meltdown. We're just gonna jump right into it because there are a bunch of cool albums, a bunch of cool projects on the horizon. We're gonna start off by talking about a slew of albums that we know for sure will come out very soon. We've heard some songs, we've seen some album artwork, we know the album title, we might even have a release date or even some pre-order information. It's very safe to assume these albums will come out, not just this year, but very, very soon. First up, we have the Choral Tombs from German funeral doom crew Ahab, being released January 13th, next week, via Napalm Records. This will be their first full-length studio album in just about 8 years, and it looks to also be their most dynamic, their most ambitious and explorative album to date. The album is heavily inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The few songs that we've heard so far from the album have been absolutely fantastic. The band writes on their Bandcamp page, the Choral Tombs is arguably the closest Ahab has come to their sound resembling a real soundtrack. It's evil, it's longing, it's sad, it's meditative, it's cavernous, it's vast, it's ridiculously epic, and as heavy as the colossal squid itself. I'm not even like a huge fan of funeral doom, but Ahab are just that good at what they do and that interesting that I'm more than willing to make an exception for the Choral Tombs. Super pumped to hear the full album when it comes out next week. Next up, believe it or not, we have Foregone from Swedish melodic death metal pioneers and icons turned laughingstock of the 2010s, In Flames, being released February 10th via Nuclear Blast Records. Look, the 2010s were a rough time to be a fan of In Flames. Their sound has just gotten so weak and so dull. The production and songwriting has gotten worse and worse with each record. There have just been so many duds and disappointments. Sounds of a Playground Fading, Siren Charms, Battles, I the Mask, the Clayman 2020 EP. It's been pretty rough. With all this in mind, no, I probably should not be looking forward to a brand new In Flames album, but I am because, all throughout 2021, In Flames have been dropping tons of killer songs. Out of the goddamn blue, they appear to have reconnected with their mellow-deaf roots and have tapped into a kind of energy and power and viciousness that I have not seen from the band since the late 90s and early 2000s. And this honestly has me thinking, maybe Foregone will be good. Maybe In Flames are back. I don't know. It kind of feels like they're back. They certainly haven't sounded this good in a long-ass time, in my opinion. Hell must have frozen over. Pigs must suddenly be flying, 'cause In Flames might be good again. I don't know, man. We'll see. Kind of feels like it. Kind of looks like that might happen. Kind of looks like that might be the case. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Next up, we have Ulthar releasing not one but two brand new studio albums, two full-blown displays of epic, abstract, cosmic, Lovecraftian, blackened death metal via $20 spin, one of which is called Anthronomicon, the other of which is called Helionomicon. I was a big fan of their last album, Providence, released back in 2020. It was one of my favorite albums of 2020, actually. I loved how fucking dark and strange and weird and brutal and twisted it was. These two albums appear to be giving me more of what I already love about Ulthar, while also pushing Ulthar into more abstract, into more experimental, into more atmospheric territories. Super pumped for that. The little bit of music I've heard from Amphronomicon in particular already is just absolutely stellar. Probably my most anticipated project of 2023, if we're being honest here. I'm so crazy pumped for this, and dangerously close to spending an absurd amount of money on pre-ordering both of these records. So, yeah, cool. Hella pumped. Rest in peace, wallet. Rest in peace, checking account. Next up, we have Heimdall, the 16th studio album from Norwegian progressive black metal icons Enslaved, dropping March 3rd via Nuclear Blast Records. I honestly shouldn't have to explain myself any further. Enslaved are just that good, that consistent, easily one of the best, one of the most exciting bands to pop out of the 1990s second wave Norwegian black metal movement. The album will deal with the stories and the struggles of Heimdall, a Norwegian god who guards the Bifrost Bridge and protects Asgard from invaders and the onset of Ragnarok. We're also going to see Enslaved further fiddle around with classic prog rock influences, as they did on their previous studio album Utgard and on the Caravans to the Outer Worlds EP. Very pumped to hear all of that. There's no doubt in my mind this will be solid, because Enslaved have yet to miss. They literally don't know how to miss. They could actively try and still not miss. They're just that good. So yeah, hella pumped. You should be too. If you're not, I'm genuinely a little concerned. Next up, we have 93696 from American experimental and avant-garde black metal crew Liturgy, being released March 23rd, as far as I can tell, independently. While I haven't always understood everything that Liturgy does, I've always appreciated it and mostly enjoyed it. I mean, some of the lore behind each of the Liturgy records is a little wild, especially as of late. There's a lot of philosophy and a lot of spirituality and a lot of, like, you know, a lot of big brain shit that, you know, my tiny brain just can't really comprehend. But I put up with it, and I try to understand it because I consistently have really enjoyed the music. Easily some of the most unique, mind-melting, experimental black metal I think I've ever heard. I mean, Hack and Origin of the Alimonies in particular, you know, I mean, just absolutely wild, one-of-a-kind records. There's literally nothing else within the realms of black metal that sounds anything like those records, in my opinion at least. Ravena Hunt Hendricks has just gotten more and more confident as a songwriter, as a performer, with these last few albums. I mean, the production is getting better and better and better, and there's so much being put into these records. I'm extremely pumped to hear this album, especially since the EP that Liturgy put out in October was really, really good. Just really strange, obtuse, weird shit. Super pumped. I'm down. Yeah, it's artsy-fartsy. Yeah, it's pretentious. I don't give a shit. I just don't. I don't care. And next up, we have 72 Seasons from American thrash metal and heavy metal icons Metallica, being released April 13th via Blackened Recordings. I don't think anyone's expecting this to be like on the same level as something like Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning or the Black Album. There are a lot of issues that Metallica has with production and songwriting that, you know, they've had for a long, long time, and at this point they won't even attempt to fix or resolve. I mean, Load and Reload, Death Magnetic, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, they all suffer from the same problem of, like, having too many songs or having songs that are too goddamn long. You know, Metallica has no idea how to trim or edit their own material. They never know when to properly finish a song. I have no reason to believe that won't also be an issue on 72 Seasons, but I'll still check it out because I love Metallica, warts and all. They're still one of my favorite bands, like, period. And honestly, that first single they put out, Lux Eterna, I kind of liked it. I kind of dug it. It's got, like, an old school kind of, like, Nawabum charm and swagger to it. Like, it kind of sounds like if Diamond Head and Motorhead had a baby. Everyone honestly sounds pretty good on the song. Even Lars sounds great. I mean, if we're just looking at Lars's drumming alone, it's probably one of the best things Metallica have done in a long time. So yeah, fuck it. I guess I'm pumped. I guess it's on this list for a reason. It's in this video for a reason. I'm curious and excited to check out 72 Seasons. All right, next up I want to talk about some albums that I'm pretty sure are going to come out in 2022. We don't have a ton of information about them, but we have just enough to assume that the band in question will indeed release an album. First up, looking forward to a new Mutoid Man record. I was convinced it was going to come out in 2022, but it didn't. Last I heard, they were putting the finishing touches on this bad boy. I'm crazy pumped. One of my favorite metal bands of the 2010s. I love their fusion of like heavy metal and prog and sludge and even pop punk. They've got a really unique sound and vibe, featuring members too of Cave In, Converge, now also featuring Jeff Matz from High on Fire fame on bass guitar. I think it'll be wild. I think it'll be rad and cool. Also excited for potentially a new Dying Fetus album. I love that song they put out a few months ago. Can't remember the name off the top of my head. Thought it was really gnarly, really brutal, really crunchy, really great production. Dying Fetus, clearly still the masters of like brutal death metal. Very pumped to hear a potential album from them. Apparently, Panopticon is also putting the finishing touches on a brand new studio album, one that they've been working on pretty much ever since And Again Into the Light dropped. I'm a big fan of Panopticon's fusion of Appalachian folk music and atmospheric and melodic black metal, so I mean, I've no reason to believe that this new album will not be a bona fide banger. I've also been told that Lantlos will be releasing a brand new studio album sometime this year, and that right now they're putting the finishing touches on it. In fact, that would be rad, that would be cool. I love their earlier Black Gaze records. I love seeing them transform on records like Melting Sun and Wildhund into doing more like post-metal and alt-metal kind of stuff. I think it's really neat, very lush, very evocative, very emotive. No reason to believe the new album won't also be all of those things. I'm also kind of pumped, honestly, for a new Brand of Sacrifice record, and not just because they're from my hometown of Toronto, Ontario. They, I feel, are one of the more interesting and one of the more brutal and pummeling deathcore bands out there today. I like how they're bringing in influences from slam and brutal death metal. I like some of the electronic stuff that they've thrown in as well. Lifeblood was not a perfect record, but they appear to have ironed out the kinks with stuff like Exodus and with some other collabs and appearances that they've made and done. I'm pumped. I feel like 2023 is going to be a really good year for Brand of Sacrifice. Oh, and also, not one, but two brand new studio albums from Worm. Oh my goodness, that's right. I've got some hot insider information for y'all. Not only will Worm be dropping two brand new studio albums, but they'll both be completely different. One will pick up exactly where Forever Glade and Blue Nothing left off, fusing those two worlds together. The other will be doing something else entirely. I'm not going to say what. That's not my call to make. But I can confirm that Worm are releasing two new albums, and you are not ready for it. You might think you are. You're not. You're not. Okay? Settle down. Also, could Imperial Triumphant be working on a cover album? According to this fucking Facebook post, maybe. I'm not even going to begin speculating what could be on an Imperial Triumphant cover album. I have learned to expect the unexpected with them, so that's exactly what I'm gonna fucking do. If this is real, if this is not Imperial Triumphant just being goofy, then I am excited. I am super crazy excited. As far as albums that we'd like to see are concerned, but we just don't have the information to prove that they're coming, even though they probably are, New Code Orange. New Code Orange seems very likely. They tend to drop a new album every 3 years, and it's been 3 years since Underneath, and their profile has only gotten bigger and bigger. I feel like it'll see them going further and further into the realms of like electronic-core and industrial metal, and I don't know if I'm fully on board with that. I think I like the balance that they had on Underneath, but I'd be curious to check it out irregardless. I'm also wondering if Testament will be releasing a new album in 2023. Dave Lombardo joined last year, and Testament certainly seems pumped about doing more music with him. They've talked about how they've gotten faster and heavier since he rejoined, and that would certainly be awesome. It wouldn't be out of the question in general for Testament to release something. Titans of Creation was 3 years ago, and lately they've gotten into the habit of releasing an album every 3 or 4 years or so. Cattle Decapitation also very likely to release a brand new album in 2023. We don't really have a lot of information about that, but Cattle Decapitation did play a brand new song, We Eat Our Young, I believe it was called, while on tour with Amon Amarth and Obituary and Carcass. So, yeah, the odds seem in our favor that we would have a new Cattle Decapitation within the first few months of 2023. New Intronaut very likely on the way as well. Sasha Dunable has been working on a new Intronaut album basically ever since Fluid Existential Inversions dropped, and he's had nothing but time these last couple of years to do so. There's also a real possibility that Slipknot could be releasing even more new music in 2023, specifically a previously unreleased album by the name of Look Outside Your Window, which in the past members of Slipknot have described as being more akin to Radiohead than the typical nu metal, heavy metal battering of records like Iowa or Volume 3 or All Hope Is Gone. They've kind of teased this project a lot over the years and nothing has ever really happened, so I don't really know how legit this is, but now that Slipknot is no longer signed to Roadrunner Records, it's fair to assume that they can kind of just do whatever the fuck they want, so I don't see why they wouldn't release this album at this point. Fuck it. Go for it. And fuck it, you know what, I am kind of curious about a new 6 Feet Under album too. Not so much because I expect it to be good, quite the opposite, I expect it to be very terrible. More so just because it is fun to talk shit about Chris Barnes. This man has just gotten more and more unhinged as time has gone by. His voice has gotten worse and worse. The music has gotten worse and worse, duller, more repetitive, more simplistic, more idiotic, resulting in, just garbage after garbage record like fucking Torment, Nightmares That Decompose, Graveyard Classics 4. I've no reason to believe that a new album would be any different. I imagine it would be especially even more hilarious considering his comments as of late about modern death metal, about bands like Black Dahlia Murder, Gatecreeper, Undeath, his peers in Cannibal Corpse. So yeah, fuck it, I'm pumped. Chris Barnes can talk the talk. It's time to find out if he can walk the walk. He can't, but let's pretend for a moment that maybe there's a possibility, and let's find out together, and let's prepare to have a good laugh. And that does it for me. Those are all the albums that I'm really pumped for in 2023. Now it's your turn to tell me, who do you want to hear new music from this year? What albums are you crazy mega hella pumped and hyped for? Are you very foolishly holding on to hope that Tool or System of a Down or Guns N' Roses or Necrophagist or Winter Sun will release new music? Let me know in the comments below. Press this button to subscribe. Look, there's more videos right here. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.